Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arena of Aurethious podcast. I am Al Basler, aka Aurethious, and today, as I promised, no football. Actually, there's a smidge of football that was mentioned, but we're going to be talking some professional wrestling here today, and I'm going to be joined by Pat Dillon, who is the promoter of UFO Wrestling. Pat's been involved in the independent wrestling scene here in the New England area for quite a while now, so it's good to get his perspective on a lot of the stuff, and we're going to find out a bit about some of his experiences. Pat's got a show coming up this week. By the time that this is going to be released for you guys, February Vacation in Malden, Massachusetts. So we'll have all the information in the description for that for you guys. But I've known Pat for a little while now. I think I mentioned this. I might have mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this. I actually did a little bit of pro wrestling training several years ago before I kind of got out of and being involved with it. And Pat was involved with the Bell Time Club that I trained at, and that's when I really met Pat. I mean, I'd seen him at shows here and there and run into him through some of my time with New England Championship Wrestling. But when I started training at the Bell Time Club that I really got to know Pat pretty well, and I'd done some work with him for UFO Wrestling in the past too. So it was good. I hadn't really talked to Pat. I lost a lot of touch with some of the people that I met through wrestling, in COVID, when COVID became a thing. I had been, probably out of wrestling for a little while at that point, but then, with not much, going on, you don't, aside from, you see people maybe posting stuff on Facebook here and there, but you don't have the constant stream of stuff for some of these people that you're used to seeing. So it was fun for me to catch up with Pat, and let's get to it, shall we? So here's my conversation with UFO Wrestling promoter Pat Dillon. All right, welcome back to the arena, and today we're joined by Pat Dillon, the promoter of UFO Wrestling, the prospective Mayor of Southie. How's it going, Pat?
Not bad, Al. How about yourself?
Doing great. So I guess we'll just give everyone a little bit of a background. I like to do that for anybody who's not been on the podcast with me before. I've known you for several years through our mutual paths crossing in pro wrestling. I think I met you first, like for earnest, when I started training at the Bell Time Club.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So how long have you been involved in wrestling? Because I'm actually interested in, because I don't know if I really know kind of how you got started and all that.
Okay, so let me rewind. Probably. I mean, I've been around it for a very long time. Since Century Wrestling Alliance, New England, NWA New England. Tony Rumble.
Yep.
But what me started realistically was in 1998. I headed to Malden to train with Killer Kowalski.
Yep. That's a common story around these parts.
Yes. And after about maybe a year or so, I had suffered an injury training. And I kind of put it on the back burner for a while. And then every now and again, I toyed with it until I just kind of basically walked away from it.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who actually trained with Matt and Kyle Storm for a little while.
Okay.
And it was the same thing for him. Like, he loved it. He just loved wrestling, but he had a heart problem pop up, and he just wasn't really wasn't able to do it anymore. Which is a shame, because he was super charismatic, and I think given the time, he would have had a good run at things. But
well, that's the thing with me. I was 24 So you're kind of saying that's kind of late with
Yeah.
today
Yeah.
and age. But I was transitioning from a high school basketball player and an amateur boxer. So I could move.
WWE would love you these days.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. The boxer and basketball player.
Yeah.
So I thought I picked up quick. I mean, they utilized me. I wasn't even there 2 months, and they were already utilizing me in some spots on a couple of Kowalski's IWF shows and some random fundraiser events that a few of them were putting on at the time. So, but then I fell off the face of the earth.
Well, before we get to when you came back to Earth, I'm always interested. So for the most part, anybody who kind of gets involved with wrestling in any way, shape, or form, generally they're a big, long time wrestling fan.
Yes.
I mean, maybe now that's not that might be the exception with how they're doing things at the Performance Center now. But
Yeah.
by and large, guys who have been around the independent scene for a while, they have a love of wrestling. Where does yours go back to? Like, what was that moment where really got you into wrestling? Not just like as a casual observer, but someone who was really, really into wrestling.
Saturday mornings, World Class Championship Wrestling from the Sportatorium.
That's a good time period.
That's it. That sold me. Yeah, Iceman King Parsons, Missing Link, the Von Erichs, the God, why can't I think of them? Terry Gordy and those guys. God, what were they? Bad Street USA, Michael Hayes.
Freebirds.
Yes. Yeah, that's what hooked me.
Nice.
Those, it wasn't the www.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys, and then your AWA back then, with your Road Warriors, who was back there? Stan, the Fabulous Ones,
Stan Lane.
Stan Lane, yeah, Baron Von Raschke, those that era as well.
I'm always fascinated for people who they kind of came up and grew up with wrestling in that period, because I was born in '81, so by the time that I was old enough to really start getting into it was just kind of that getting into that peak of WWF in the '80s.
Yeah.
I was a child of Hulkamania.
Yeah.
But like people who really got to experience like the territories before that, I always find like fascinating, because I love the concept of it, and I know enough from just studying and looking back and reading about it, but just being able to have that that breadth of options available from all over the country.
Absolutely, without a doubt. It was a great time period, and if you ever vacationed anywhere, if you just happen to head down south, you go to the Carolinas or Georgia, or even like the Tennessee, the Mid South, you could see some, just about anything.
Yeah.
And it worked for them back then.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing, and especially like I look at my daughter Ash, and she got into wrestling, several years ago, and it was basically WWE was the only show in town at that time, so that's all she knew is wrestling. And like to think that you had all of these different areas that had different talent, different focuses. You get all these different flavors, and that's the one thing that I guess it's starting to come back a little bit now, where you have AEW, you have WWE, you have New Japan, you have ROH, and all these more bigger indies, I think we're seeing a little bit of that, but it's still, there is a whole generation of wrestling fans right now that only knows that the way that WWE puts on wrestling as wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. But now with the emergence of AEW, but the only thing with that, you're only seeing some different talent.
Right.
Plus, and then you're seeing the talent you've already seen at the WWE's.
In some case, yeah.
Yeah.
But I've always been interested in the old territory days, because it's funny because I kind of just missed a lot of like the NWA in the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
And I've since been able to go back for what had been available on the WWE network, and what you can find on YouTube, and I love that style. I love that presentation, that product. And just to see some things now kind of just having some kind of an alternative, and it's good for everybody, I think. As good for the fans most of all.
Of course. I mean, you can go back and look at Scott Hall looking like Magnum PI,
Yes.
Those guys. And then you get to see the guys that you didn't see that like, Blackjack Mulligan, Stan Hansen, some guys that had some amazing talent, because of the network, you can see all that stuff and be amazed at what product was out there back then that say us up in the Northeast had zero idea about.
Right. Because it's different. I mean, you would get some stuff on national television, just by the a lot. We would get a lot of the stuff from like Georgia, just because of the fact that they were on Turner Network, so we would get some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And you get some AWA. I think didn't ESPN air some AWA stuff too?
They were running a program at like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. From Showboat in Las Vegas.
So I guess to kind of bring it back into your experiences. So you said you disappeared kind of off the face of the planet. After you had some injuries and decided to kind of step away. What brought you back?
My brother. One day, my brother says, "You know what? I want to put on a wrestling show." I said, "Oh, cool. Have fun." So I stopped paying attention to what he was doing. I started shaking my head. Wait a minute. I got to get in the middle of this. I said, I have to get in the middle of this. I have to get involved because, I still knew players in the game. People that I trained with, and there was a good core of guys that I trained with that were peaking in this area at the time in the independent circuit. So I told my brother, I said, listen, let me show up at a few shows like Good Times in Somerville.
Yeah.
And I think Sheldon NECW was at Quincy Armory a few times. I said, well, let me go and reach out to a few that I know. And that's when I got back into it.
When abouts are we talking here?
2008.
That's interesting because I think that's right around the time I had my first like kind of cup of coffee with wrestling.
Yeah,
getting involved.
Because I had by that time, Kowalski had migrated up to Chaotic.
Yep.
And some of the talent went with him. So I had kind of a hand up with those guys, and I still had a hand with guys that were still in Malden training at Richard Burns Dojo.
Okay.
So, like Mike Hollow went up to Andover. Slick Wagner Brown stayed, and Bo Douglas stayed in Malden.
Yep.
And started doing training there.
Right.
While Mike Hollow and Kowalski took their talents north. So I couldn't let my brother just get worked.
Right.
So to, you know.
Now, did he have like experience? I hate using this term, but I guess in the business.
No.
So he was just a wrestling fan. Was like, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah. Not to change the subject, but I at one point thought about opening a tattoo parlor when restrictions kind of got lifted in this area with, like Boston specifically. But then somebody said, you don't even have a tattoo. So you get no business doing it. Okay. And so that's kind of my brother not having any business in the business. So that's why I jumped in with him and just kind of stayed in the background.
I mean, you could probably speak to this a lot better than I could, but I mean, someone in that kind of a situation, getting involved on like a promoter level without really having any experience, that feels to me just in some of the and I think maybe it's not so much of a big deal. Maybe like if something like that was to happen now, but back then, I feel like they would just be, at least with some of the talent and other people that would be working with him would just be like, who is this guy? Like, why? This guy doesn't know what he's doing. This guy, this guy didn't pay his dues.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I interfered, soften the blow.
Yeah.
Because then I'm gonna turn around and say Ted Turner.
Right.
Ted Turner.
If you got enough money.
Right. Exactly. You hire the people.
If the check's cash and everything flows right, no one cares about that at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's what it was. Is I jumped on board with him, and I kind of stayed in the back because I was already inside doing other things with some promotions.
Okay.
So I kind of hid in the back, and people knew.
The invisible hand, as Don Callis likes to call himself.
So but I know caused some heat with some people, but you know what? Oh well.
That's your brother, man.
My brother, exactly. So
we are our brother's keepers, as they say.
Of course.
So what was he just putting on shows? Like was he like did he establish a promotion? I'm just trying to connect the dots as to how we get from there to you actually promoting.
to 14 years later, the way he put it was like a board game to him. When he wanted to play it, he was going to take it off the shelf and play it, and then put it back on the shelf.
Interesting.
Yes. But me being, I don't know, I guess hearing the voices, the one and done,
Yeah.
Where you're a new promotion and these people try to put shows on and then they disappear. And I just kind of took the reins, and I took the reins, but with the people that kind of had heat with me. I said, it's my brother's promotion.
Right.
You know, I'm just making my brother get, toppled over or,
Yeah.
So, but in reality, I was, controlling pay, booking venues, booking the talent. But then, hey, everybody has a price. And I always blame my brother when I wanted to, do something.
Yeah.
And
easy out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I'm just here watching my brother. I'm holding his money. So
how does that translate? You said 14 years later. I mean, is there anything in the interim that?
We had doing a show. We had a couple dates booked, and we did a show in Somerville. We had I think we had Tony Atlas come in at the Armory of the Arts in Somerville, and something happened between us. Some type of little argument. I don't know what it was.
Just you and your brother?
Yeah, something stupid, and he just got up and left.
Middle of the show?
Yeah, he just got up and left. And then you're hearing people in the back going, "Well, I hope he doesn't have the paydays."
I say, yeah, we getting paid,
right? So, but we had already had a couple buildings booked, so I just kind of continued with it, And then he just kind of sat in the back a little bit, and kind of just lingered. Come back a couple times and kind of just drifted away from it, and basically couldn't be bothered, he was done playing the game.
Yeah.
But we had put money into it. We bought a ring, had the canvas painted with the logo on it. So
was this UFO or was this something different?
This was UFO, yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is a good time. What is that an acronym for anything? I've always been curious about that, and I've never asked you where the name came from.
He just thought of it and he left it wide open for branching to anything, He just put 3 letters together, and it sounded good, and had no meaning to it. But if he wanted to turn around and put on a boxing show or an MMA show, Universal Fight Organization, anything. I mean, there were, you could take the UFO and go in different directions,
That sounds like when FTR started in AEW, and everyone was like, "What does FTR stand for?" And they basically came up with 10 different things that it could stand for. Whatever you want it to mean tonight, that's what it is.
Exactly. As long as you buy the T-shirts.
Seriously. So when did you kind of start? When was this that you kind of start taking over and really it became your deal?
Probably 2010.
Okay.
2010. And then I've just rolled with it since.
That's an interesting time because if my memory serves me right, right around then I think was kind of when the indie scene really started to kind of cool off a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was, I don't know the exact time period, but it was around then. I think that there was the thing going on with NECW, and they had the split.
Yeah.
There, because then when Sheldon decided to get going again, that's when I actually got back involved with wrestling. And that was, I think it was 2011, I think. Yeah, because I think it was like shortly, like right around the time I met my wife.
Okay.
But yeah, that's because I mean, you can probably speak. I mean, I'm sure in like the late '90s, everybody was like, "Hey, let's get in this wrestling thing."
Yeah, there was a lot that went on because now, like I said, I kind of disappeared,
Yeah,
after like uh like 98, 99, going into 2000, I kind of disappeared. But I'm seeing these videos surfacing from early like 2000, and I'm like, I wasn't gone, like I didn't go anywhere. I mean, I was still popping up at places,
yeah,
but I'm like, where the hell? Who the hell? Why wasn't I there? Who was this? And I'm like, wow, there was a lot going on between um, when I walked away till the time I get back in promoting.
right.
You know, so yeah, it was. But there was a lot at that time. A lot started with different areas of New England, different companies.
Yeah, I look at what you've been doing, the last several years that I've really known you and been, kind of paying attention to what's going on. And I look at, there's generally speaking, there's two flavors of independent promotions. There are the ones that try and produce, episodic events, kind of everything leads into the next.
Yeah,
And then there's one, and it's I've heard people use the term super indie, where they just basically talking about, they just, the promoter just tries to get, the best crop pool of talent that they can
yeah,
for whatever events coming up. Put them together, and doesn't, not so much worried about storylines and all this other stuff, and just, taking whatever the best available talent to them is, and just try and create the best card. I feel like you kind of fall in that latter category, right?
yeah, I'd say so. But lately, I've been branching out of state because you can see the guys that I use
Yeah,
twice twice a week, every week.
right.
So, but yeah, no, I definitely did at one point because you were talking your Brian Malonis's, your Max Bowers, DC Dillingers, um, on a rotation,
Right.
you know, show after show, and then you went, then we branched and we started doing like your Matt Taven, um, Wagner Brown, and those guys, so we put together, super shows basically, yeah,
Yeah.
of what the top crop at the time was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think on some levels, like some people maybe don't get that idea because again, it's that whole mindset of what you see on national television. It's like, okay, this week leads to the next week, leads to the next week, and it's in theory, it's supposed to be coherent storytelling. And then just the idea I almost equate it to, an MMA promotion in the sense
Yeah.
of, you're not worried about, storylines. I mean, if you get storylines, great, but
Yeah.
you want to put, the best fighters against each other because that's,
Yeah.
it's the selling of the fight.
Yeah.
That rather than the story on about the fight.
Yeah. And I've had people in the past going like, well, why isn't your champ on the show? Because I don't need him. He's not the best right now that I need.
Right.
You'll come to some of my shows, and if I do have a title match, it's before intermission. Now with me, I'm looking at who's putting butts, asses in seats.
Yeah.
You know? And if it's two not so top level tier guys, they're staying until the end of the night.
Right.
You know, there's nothing worse than having a title match with 30 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
When at intermission you had 330.
Right.
So that's I'm starting to get back into the storylines with a select group of guys that, you know, that amusing more often than not. And I'm still doing the other things, you know, bringing the other people in randomly. Trying to showcase talents from out of state that, you know, I got a kid from Pennsylvania that will come in every time I ask him because it's another platform for him to get out of Pennsylvania and New Jersey and those areas.
I mean, it's good for them on a couple levels. One, obviously they get, you know, more exposure to different audiences.
Yeah.
But also, you know, they get to experience, you know, different promotions, you know, different talent to work with, which especially on this level, you know, is so valuable for these guys to just, you know, have those different experiences. You know, again, you know, you get guys who have been trained a little bit differently. They've come up a little bit differently. So it's that, I mean, to a lower degree of, you know, back in the day, you know, when guys would go overseas, you know, go to the UK, go to, you know, travel down to Mexico, go to Japan. Just the idea of getting out there and getting those different experiences just kind of enhances your portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And what actually works to their advantage as well is, you know, I got a good rapport with a lot of people in the area, other promotions and you know, promoters and stuff like that. So these guys will come up and they're going to work for me on a Saturday. And then it's like, hey, if you come up Friday, you know, 20 minutes away, I could get you on another, you know. So now that gives them another outlet in this area.
Right.
Which they're greatly appreciative of, you know?
Yeah, because you don't always see that where, you know, rival promoters are willing to, like, you know, scratch each other's backs and share talent, so to speak. But, you know, it's I don't know, it seems like it's just a different ball game than it was even, you know, 10 years ago in that respect.
Oh, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely is.
So you typically do what, like 5 or 6 or so events a year? Is it more than that now?
No.
I was to say, yeah, that sounded about right when I said it.
4 with an occasional 5.
Yeah.
You know, I do the school vacation weeks, February and April. Then always the anniversary show in August.
Mm-hmm.
And then what used to be our Thanksgiving show, Thanksgiving Eve.
Right.
Which turned into a Halloween event, which turned into a Christmas event.
That's Big Bang, right?
Big Bang is August.
Oh, wait, what's... Why am I forgetting?
Havoc.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
And then...
I laugh because I remember there was one of those Harvest Havocs that I did your ring announcing for.
Yeah.
And it always makes me laugh because you have the Turkey Rumble.
Yes.
And so it's basically it's Battle Royal, and you know, all of a sudden I go to real, and I think I went to talk to you, and then you were like, oh yeah, just make sure you announce all the eliminations. And I was like, oh, who's in this thing? And like, there's guys that I come out that are in this thing, and I don't know. So they're getting eliminated, and I don't know who they are, so I just started making up names. I was like using like Marvel characters' real names. I was like, oh, Steve Rogers has been eliminated. I remember somebody actually came up to me after and was like, I heard you got my name wrong. And I was like, yeah, I didn't know your name, sorry.
Yeah.
Such a professional I am.
But that battle royal, I mean, obviously you see the trophy that they got, so
Yeah.
it was always something. There's always with those battle royals on those holiday shows, there's always a swerve somewhere,
Yeah.
And nobody knows about it except for like two people. And half the time the ring announcer doesn't even know.
I can attest to that.
So, yeah, but that Harvest Havoc ended up turning into a Halloween Monsters Ball, which turned into the Monster Mash Battle Royal.
Okay.
And then because of conditions this year, I was on a hiatus because of COVID.
Right.
And I set on 2023, dead set on 2023. But then I saw people running, and I called Malden, and they said, we have no restrictions. I said, okay, I want to book a date. Okay. So we come back in I don't even know what year we're in. 2021 with, nope, 2020 with Big Bang, I think, or 2021 with Big Bang in August. And then the community center, we scheduled the Halloween event, but we were going outside. Figure the end of October, our weather was good. We do 1:00 in the afternoon. We still get the sun, and we get hit with rain for 2 weeks.
Oh man.
And the city still had restrictions, so
Right.
we couldn't city building, but we got a private private entity to let us use their facility. So we went with a Christmas theme.
Okay. Yeah. I remember seeing a lot of the promotional stuff for that come out. Everything had to get shifted around.
Yes. So that battle royal now become the Jingle Ball. Yeah.
It's wrestling. Got to be flexible.
That's it. Absolutely.
Roll with the punches. So
that's all.
Before we get, because I know you've got, but with this we're recording this on 17th, but it's this is going to come out the week of February vacation event. Before we get into that, I'm always curious to pick the brains of people in wrestling on, if in your experiences, is there anybody that you have worked with that you looked so forward to working with because they're just always such a pleasant experience to work with? I know from the time that I spent a lot of it with NECW and doing, doing a lot of the interviews and the promos, you had those guys that you would work, and guys and girls. Let's not leave out the ladies, that were just always the best people to work with, and I'm always interested to hear other people's experiences on that.
I'm gonna touch on a male and a female.
Sounds good.
I'll go with the male first. Brian Malonis.
Good choice.
Always,
I unfortunately never really got too much of a chance to cross paths with him. Yeah. But I've heard so many good things from people who have worked with him, so that doesn't surprise me.
And female would be Luscious Latasha.
Another good one too. I've worked a little bit more with her, but yeah, she's a sweetheart.
Pick up the phone, and I'm there. No questions asked. Always. Same with Brian. If it didn't right now at a certain point affect the ROH, which is no longer right now technically for about a couple months.
Right.
He was always, yeah, first one ready to be booked. I didn't go that way. I'm kind of I'm not going to say it because I'm kind of not upset with him right now, but I kind of am. But I won't mention who it is. So,
fair enough. I won't press.
Yeah. You just don't up and say, all right, I'm all done. And then you turn around and resurface,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, I still love the kid, and the door's open anytime, so.
Cool. So coming up, we've got February vacation. Your annual February vacation event. That is the 25th, correct?
Yes, a little different this year.
Oh, do tell.
Usually, I do the Wednesday nights.
Yeah, I know, because I know there's been times when you've been like, you hit me up, and then Wednesday nights when I get up at 4:00 in the morning for work the next day is tough. It's wait before you get it. So I had a conversation with Bo Douglas about this a couple of years ago, because it was the Bell Time Club was doing one of these during school vacation week. I think it was originally. I think usually you do it, but I don't know what. But anyways, and I was like, I got the card, and it was like something like 10 matches or something, and I'm like, hey Bo, I saw the card. It's like 10 matches. I'm like, it's like a Wednesday night. Like, are these going to be short matches? And he's like, oh, the kids are on vacation. I'm like, yeah, but the parents aren't necessarily. They got to get up the next morning for work like I do.
All right. You want the backstory to that?
Sure.
Okay. I had the building booked. I had gotten into a relationship. So I kind of put wrestling on the back burner. But I had the building reserved already. And Dante Luna, who was a big part of getting us into Fenway Park.
Yep.
Always had a passion for putting on a show. So I handed it to him and Bo. And that's how it became a Bell Time show.
Yep.
And as Dante's first show, he wanted to go huge.
Yes. And it was huge.
That's why you had a marathon on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And then again, it happened again in August. Same thing. I had the building reserved and I wasn't feeling it again.
Right.
So again, I passed it to Dante for a second show. And again, somewhat of a marathon.
Well, indie shows tend to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a running joke is that they always start late and they always run long.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing you get into sometimes, because you mentioned you talked about how you structure your cards sometimes so that the title match isn't necessarily the last match on the show. Yeah. Because you do get that, especially on some of these shows that do run long. You get those fans that personally, I've always felt that 3 hours is kind of like your max. Like if you're going much longer than 3 hours and you're asking people to be there for that long, unless it's something like WrestleMania and people are paying like exorbitant prices for, they're not gonna. You can't ask someone to just stay that long at something like that. I mean, you look at other sporting events, baseball aside, because baseball hasn't figured it out yet. But that's the thing is you have these 2 hours, 3 hours at the most, and that's that attention span that you can get.
Except for the last hour of football, sometimes it's 2 hours.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's 2 hours. Yeah. no, what you're right. And I try to limit my shows now. But then I turn around and go, oh, I forgot to book this person.
Yeah, it's that catch-22.
And then I'm like, oh, then the guilt trips come out, and it's
Right.
like, well, not for this one, maybe next one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I already have April vacation booked. But nothing's out yet. And people are asking me, and I'm like, it's booked. I'm sorry,
So
Again,
what was the idea behind going with Friday for the February show?
Oh, so because it was one of the only dates they gave me available for
That's a good reason as any.
and you know as well as I do, Friday night shows aren't the best because if you got to go to the show to work, you're going to sit in Friday traffic.
Right.
So you start a little later.
Yep.
Maybe an 8:00 start time. But it's his vacation, so I said, you know what? I'll go for it, and see how I can capitalize on doors open at 7.
Yeah.
And see what happens, because if they know well in advance, I know personally, if I know I'm going somewhere to do something on a certain night, well in advance, I'm taking the day off of work,
Yeah.
So
what's on the menu for February vacation? What are we looking at for some of our marquee?
Ilya Markopoulos versus Slick Wagner Brown.
Should be good.
I've got a mixed tag team match with Vern Vicalo and Luscious Latasha. They're taking on Channing Thomas and Little Mean Kathleen. Champion Darley Decimo, he is going to take on a gentleman by the name of Sigma.
Very mysterious name.
Yeah, it's a Greek. So, that being said, we got a couple new guys that have been battling it out a little bit. The Rotten Apple, Adam Applegate against Aaron Kadamia. They had a feud that happened back in December, and actually something that started at Big Bang in August that rolled over into December. That's now rolling over into February vacation.
Long-term storytelling at its best.
Yeah. So that we just added Nico Silva to the show.
Okay.
Trying to think. Two young hot studs that train at Next Gen up in Manchester with Mike Hollow and Johnny Vegas. Cassius Hall and Kid V. Couple young up and coming studs that should put on a decent show.
That's always fun when you get guys like that who they're the guys that because a lot of the people who go to a lot of these local indie shows, I mean, they go to a lot of these shows.
Yes.
And so that like you said, a lot of this talent, you'll see them. Some of them you'll see them a couple of times a weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you get these guys that are kind of the next ones coming up, it's obviously good for those guys to get that experience, but it's good for the fans to get a little taste of things to come, guys and girls they don't get to see as often.
Yeah.
That's good. So for anybody who is in the Boston area and would be interested in attending, how might they score themselves some tickets?
You can actually get them at the door.
Nice.
Where we're basically a week away. There's no sense in trying to get advanced because there's no time to send tickets out. There's always time, but with the way the post office runs these days.
Yeah, seriously.
So they can purchase them at the door. Plenty of seats still available. And our doors open at 7 that night. And that's the Malden Irish American Club at 177 West Street in Malden, Mass.
That's a fun little building.
Yes.
Usually they got the bar there. Although I haven't been there in a few years, so I don't know if anything's really changed. It's been quite a while since I've been there.
Yeah. We don't operate the bar.
Good. That's always a treacherous thing with wrestling events.
We do have concessions, though.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of vendors that will be there. Brutal Bob Evans will be there hanging out.
Oh yeah, I think I saw something about today about that.
Yeah, hang with Bob. Just go and hang with him. Just come and hang.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, so we'll have all the information. I'll have all the information. So if you're watching the video version of this, it'll be in the description of the video. You can get all the details you need to jump on and join for February vacation. It's a good time. Always a good time. So I guess before we get close to wrapping this up, we have to talk about this Mayor of Southie thing. I love this thing. This is great. So, if you're checking this out and you're not from the New England area and you somehow don't know what Southie is, South Boston, Southie. Explain to the people what this Mayor of Southie thing is, because we have to distinguish. You're not actually running for mayor, but what is the Mayor of Southie? How did this come about, and what's involved with this?
Okay, I want to say maybe South Boston is a small Irish Catholic community within the city of Boston, and every year they host a St. Patrick's Day parade. So about maybe 10 years ago, the mayor pulled the funding for the parade. So the powers that be who organize it come up with a solution, and they ran this contest, the Mayor of Southie. So 5 guys joined the race, and their job was to go out and raise money for the parade. And whoever raised the most money got the title. And they got a float in the parade, the sash that says mayor. And, they may have got a perk or two. I heard one year somebody got tickets to Dropkick Murphys. So
they won't be doing that this year.
Yeah. So now, fast forward to this year. The funding is kind of back, but it was a fun fundraiser. So they continued it. And there was a 2-year hiatus because of COVID. And I had teased a couple of years ago about it. And when I found out that the parade was on this year and there was a mayor race, I said, you know what? I grew up there. I lived there my whole life. Let me get involved. So I threw my hat in the race.
I mean, you seem to be having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because, I don't come off as shy, shy person.
No, that's true.
I'm extremely shy. Okay. And I was kind of like hesitant, but I said, you know what? Let's break out of this shell, and let's do it. And so I started a GoFundMe, and then I started reaching out to people for, raffle items to raffle off some stuff to raise money. And now I'm starting to get vocal with it, I'm starting to rub elbows, bump into people, and just setting up events.
Setting up for a real mayoral run.
The way Michelle Wu's going, maybe, So, but yeah, so that's what it is. The long and short of it is, it's a fundraiser. The South Boston Allied War Veterans Council hosts the event, and it's basically a fundraiser for them to put on the parade.
Nice. So
all proceeds go right to the Allied War Veterans Council, and they use the proceeds to fund the parade.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get the information out on that too. So if anybody wants to support our prospective mayor here.
Yes, the main thing is what people don't realize is every dollar counts as one vote, and it's open to anybody to donate, not just a South Boston thing. Anybody worldwide.
There you go.
If you got friends over in the UK, the Irish over in Ireland, they all love the Irish parade, St. Patrick's Day. They can donate.
Yeah, I always hear about telling people to vote with their dollar. This is that being taken literally.
Absolutely, 100%.
So when does this? How long does this go for? When do they actually choose the mayor?
The kickoff party is next Wednesday. So meet the candidates, and then it will last about a month. I think either March 15th or 16th, they'll tally up everybody's money, and they'll announce the winner on the 17th, St. Patrick's Day.
Nice. Is the parade that day, or is it?
Oh, the parade is that Sunday on the 20th. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's in the middle of the week this year.
Yeah. So, and I've got a bunch of raffles going off right now. That is gonna quite, some buzz right now with the raffles. A lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I saw you threw up a Mac Jones autographed jersey.
Yes.
And I've seen a Patrice Bergeron autographed blade, right? Stick blade.
Yeah. There's also a UFC glove signed by Conor McGregor.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I just also posted today concert tickets to see Bad Bunny at Fenway Park.
Royal Rumble contestant Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Gotta get that tie-in.
And Al, I'm going to share this with you right now.
Oh, an exclusive.
Happy here. I have recently laid claim to a Kevin Nash autographed football jersey from The Longest Yard.
Oh, wow. What an oddly rare thing.
What was his name? Like Engelbert or something like that?
I don't remember, but wow.
Yeah. I obtained that today, and that I may not even put it on my raffle page. I may put it on my wrestling page.
That's quite the collector's item. I mean, I can't imagine there's many of those floating around.
When it got given to me, I said, "Wow!" And the thing that popped into my head was a Willie Beeman autographed jersey.
Yes.
Or a Alco autographed jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
wait, did he autograph it as Kevin Nash, or did he autograph it as the character name?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it says Nash. I didn't look.
I was gonna say, can you really tell too? Because half the time these autographs are they're basically hieroglyphics.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. McGregor is mind-boggling, the way it's signed. So
Nice.
but yeah. So that's the next item that's going to go up for raffle.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get links out there for that stuff. So if anybody wants to, support the race, get some cool stuff.
Yeah, and you can know, Al, is you probably have in your lifetime maybe have attended one of these parades. So everybody comes to these parades.
Everybody loves a parade.
And the numbers sometimes we've had up to like 500,000 people lying in the streets of Southie to watch these parades.
I think that's the thing that I think people who aren't from this area maybe don't understand, like how big South like this parade is in Southie. Like this is, they might even put to shame the number of people that went to the Rams victory parade.
Right.
But yeah, it's always it's one of the biggest events around the city, each year. It's I remember the a lot of the backlash when the funding was pulled, and
yes.
So now that it's back, like this is
the
community is very excited.
I like to say the world has evolved.
We'd like to think so.
It's like an understanding now,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way I can put it is there's an understanding now.
Yeah. So cool. So I guess as we're wrapping up, is anything you want to plug as far as, if people want to, get involved with any of this stuff, or, just, find out more about UFO?
Yeah, I mean, UFO Wrestling is all over, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And you'll see anything coming up. I have technically 4 shows scheduled with a 5th in the works and potentially a 6th and a 7th this year. So for some reason, I got a fire lit underneath me this year. I may take a little break between March 20th and April vacation, which is Sunday, April 24th, because this month is going to be hectic. The next month for me is going to be hectic with this mayor race.
Yeah.
So
burning the candle at both ends, man.
That's it, But yeah, anything UFO, any social media, look up UFO Wrestling. You'll see things. And this mayor, just Pat Dillon for mayor on Facebook, and whatever you need will pop up.
Nice.
Even the GoFundMe. Go to GoFundMe if anyone wants to donate, and just type in Pat Dillon for mayor, and the links will pop up.
Very good. Very good. All right, Pat. Well, thank you, man. This has been great catching up. It's been too long.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been too. Well, I laugh because COVID was a thing that happened. Yeah. And I mean, I had kind of stepped a little bit away from wrestling a little bit before that, but then the world kind of stepped away for a while.
Yes.
So just I'm one of the things I've been looking forward to with the podcast is kind of reconnecting with some of the people that I've kind of lost contact a little bit, especially in wrestling. So I'm very very excited that I got to talk to you today, and we'll have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you reaching out to me, because you know what, it's like the world revolves around podcasts now.
I know. It's it's what they say. I got one. Everyone's got one.
And I'll be honest, I don't have the. I mean, we sat here for as long as we did, but I honestly don't think I've ever listened to a podcast.
I know. Yeah.
So even ones I've been on.
Well, you know what's funny? So we're at the risk of tangenting and going on for way too long. So I listen back a little bit to these that I do, just to make sure everything sounds good. I like to timestamp everything, especially for the YouTube, and like same thing with my streams on Twitch. And it's just like I always go, oh my god, I sound like that. Why do people listen to me?
Yeah,
which is, I mean, we're all super critical of the way we sound, but is what it is.
Exactly.
So, all right, Pat. Thanks again, man, and we'll catch up again soon.
All right, Al. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys. That was Pat Dillon, the promoter of UFO Wrestling here in Massachusetts. I guess New England's probably better. I mean, I know he mostly runs in Mass, but no one ever limits themselves around here. So, again, he's got February vacation coming up in just a few short days. He's got the Mayor of Southie campaign. So we're going to have links in the description, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to on Spotify. So if you're interested in supporting Pat or checking out any of the stuff that he's got going on, sounds like he's got some really cool stuff available for raffles and stuff like that. So if you're interested in checking all that out, you check out those links and you can get yourself involved and support the prospective Mayor of Southie. So again, I have fun talking to Pat. He's, like I said, he's, it's funny because like we talked about during the podcast, like I didn't really know a lot about kind of his entry into wrestling. I know, the stuff that I've dealt with him over the last several years working with the Bell Time Club and UFO Wrestling. So it was good to learn more about, how he got into it. That's one of the things I always like to talk about with people who have been involved in wrestling is, that where that started, like where they got involved. Because, and it's different for everybody. The whys and the hows are, a lot of times it's different for each individual person. So I always find those good stories to hear. So I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Again, if you're interested in any of the stuff with UFO Wrestling or Pat's run for Mayor of Southie, again, check out the links in the description. You can see that there. For more information on any of my stuff, you can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Aurethious. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays at the moment is when I stream live on Twitch. You can catch me also on Twitter. It's @Aurethious. And you can always join me on the Ion Game Corner Discord server. And the link will be, again, in the description on screen if you're watching. We got a whole bunch of fun stuff going on. Our content creator friends doing stuff on Twitch and YouTube. We have regular community game nights on Friday nights. We have Pokemon leagues and tournaments. We have other assorted organized game stuff that pops up here and there. So check it out. And otherwise, just a community hanging out, talking games and other stuff. So if you're interested in any of that, please join us on the Discord server. It's a lot of fun. So, all right, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for checking it out. I appreciate it. And we will catch you next time on the Arena of Aurethious.